Thanks, everybody, for coming out today. I appreciate it on this beautiful day. And we are here today to celebrate a milestone accomplishment in maintaining our city's critically important infrastructure, also known as roads, sidewalks, and bridges. Equally important, we celebrate, I think, the great teamwork that we've seen between my office, our Department for Public Works, and the Metro Council to make this milestone possible, which we're going to be talking about here today. It is really nice, especially if you're riding a bike there, Councilman Owen, to have a freshly paved road down here on Broadway, stretching from 45th Street all the way down to 22nd Street. And so when this particular stretch of our city was completed just a short time ago, it pushed us past 100 miles of paving for the year 2016. So it's the first time we've accomplished this 100 miles of paving in a single calendar year since 2007. So kind of the pre-recession budgets. And in 2007, we did 104 miles of paving. And we project that by the time that this season is over, the next 8 weeks or so, we'll finish at around 130 miles for 2016. So that's good progress. Anybody who's driven along our city streets in recent years will tell you that our streets needed to be paved. Now, the difficulty, of course, was that we had recession-affected budgets, and so we were trying to stretch our dollars as many ways as we possibly could. But between that 2007, when the recession hit us, and then we came out of the recession, an example, a couple years prior to that, we were averaging about 32 miles a year with a paving budget that was just $3 million a year. So the way that we put our budget together is that we collaborate with the council in advance so that when we present the budget to the full council, there shouldn't be any surprises. And one of the areas that we really focused on was what we all know and what we heard from our citizens, and that is we need to get some of our roads in better condition. So starting with the 2016 fiscal year budget, I proposed a major increase in funding to address the backlog of streets that needed to be repaved, and the Metro Council enthusiastically agreed with that. Now, a lot of times the question comes up on how do you select the roads that are going to be paved. People think it's some big political process. It's not at all. We select the roads for repaving based on what we call the Pavement Condition Index grade. And that's a 0 to 100 scale that measures the condition of the pavement. So we look at the service life of the road, roadway classification, and the rideability of the road as well. And then we start with the lowest grades first and distribute proportionally throughout the city and the county. Metro Council recognized the need for more paving, as I mentioned as well, and they certainly said, okay, let's work on this together. They embraced the challenge. We worked together to make all this work. And the council also appropriated even more funds than I had originally proposed so we could repave more roads. And for the current 2017 fiscal year, we have a paving budget of about $20 million, and we expect to do about 150 miles of paving projects this fiscal year. So this increase in paving is also an integral part of our 20-year multimodal transportation plan called Move Louisville. The top priority of Move Louisville is what we call a fix-it-first approach. We have $5 billion of transportation infrastructure, just to give you some kind of feel for how big this is. And obviously we want to use this money to best integrate and leverage our roadways, sidewalks, bike networks, and trails throughout our city for the benefit of all citizens. Multimodal means however you want to move around, we want to be able to provide that type of service for you. So $5 billion. And then we also have about 2,182 miles of roadways. So this is a lot to take care of. And so one of our top priorities for Move Louisville is fixing and maintaining our existing transportation infrastructure before we start new stuff. And this achievement of paving more than 100 miles in a single year shows obviously that the council and my office is committed to making this happen. Now, as I said, this is a big job. So this big increase in paving means a lot more work for the men and women in our Public Works Department, led by Director Vanessa Burns. Director Burns is with us here today. I want to say thank you for organizing all this and keeping us on track. Let's hear it for Director Vanessa Burns. Looking very humble today. Good job. Now, we've had to bring on more resources to manage all this as well. So I want to give a special shout out to engineer Matt Haynes and his team of other engineers and inspectors on the paving team who make sure the job gets done and gets it done right. And you see, we put out a weekly notice, and I'm sure that you all see what we're talking about, what roads are going to be paved, the status of other roads as well. So Matt, to you and your team, I want to say thank you for the good work that you guys are doing. Keep it going. You know, people are very interested in what you're doing. So let's hear it for Matt and the team there. Look, our city couldn't operate if we didn't have good Metro Council, good Mayor's Office working here together as well. The council's been great partners in making the hard choices with the budget, with the limited resources we have, and how we're going to allocate all this out. So I want to thank them for that. And first up, speaking on behalf of the council, is their president, David Yates. President Yates.
Well, first, let's try and give it up for our mayor one more time. Thank you, Greg. That's what he always gets the spot of giving kudos to everybody. I thought I'd try that out. You know, to be honest, the partisan politics and political games at each level of government often get in the way of progress. I'm really, really proud here at the Metro Council we're able to set that aside and take care of the basic government needs that our constituents want. You look at the street behind us, and you look out throughout Metro government, and you see newly paved roads, and that's because of an effort that's worked with the administration but all through the council. Individual council members, before we do budget, we talk about what's your number one priority, what is your number one goal, and it always winds up being public safety and government infrastructure, those two things. And that's where we've really put our money behind, and I think that we've done a great service to the Metro Louisville. When we travel, we often look at what other cities are doing right, but we study and see what they do wrong. We went to Austin recently, and they're booming, but one of their issues they're having is transportation issues. A lot of the cities fail to invest in their infrastructure. They fail to make the appropriate investments because it's not pretty. You can't cut ribbons. There's not a lot of rah-rah, but I'll tell you what, it's responsible government, and it makes sure the burden's not put onto your children and your grandchildren. So I'm really, really proud to get behind this budget this past year and watch what has happened. And then a new budget coming up. We put together a 10-year plan so that we can directly attack the deferred maintenance issues. So in 10 years, we'll have a tackle on deferred maintenance issues on our roads, and so we can really do transformational projects to make Louisville the great city that it can be. And that could not be done without my colleagues behind me on the Metro Council, and it couldn't be done without the administration, and it couldn't be done without all the people working through the administration. And so with that, I'm humbly grateful and thankful. A couple of my colleagues who helped lead the effort couldn't be here today. And Councilman Brent Ackerson, I think he's one of the ones that really pushed it. Before I ran for president, he said, I'm hoping that you'll stick to your guns and continue to invest in the infrastructure needs that the city has. I'm proud to say we've done that. A couple of my colleagues who also have been champions of this are going to speak to you next. Thank you.
Thank you, President Yates. I want to recognize one of our outstanding citizens over here, Ed White. Ed is the founder of the River City Drum Corps, which is one of our premier cultural institutions here in the city, and Ed has mentored hundreds of kids through the Drum Corps and helped them go on to get a post-secondary degree and be tremendous citizens for us. So, Ed, whenever we can thank you, we should do that. Ed White in the house. Now, so President Yates, thank you. Now, I really am proud of the way that we work on our budget here in the city. President Yates talked about how none of us enjoy over partisanship, and I think the way that we put our budget together is a good example of that. The budget is chaired by Mary Ann Butler, and vice chair is Angela Lee. They're both here with us today. And as I mentioned, what we do is we get together, and we'll probably be getting together before we know it for this next budget coming up. It seems like we're always budgeting, and just talk about what's changing in the city, what we're hearing from our constituents. We have some known needs that we have to address as well. The amount of revenue that's coming in is always a question mark for us, but we do our best shot at forecasting all this. Then we produce a budget that's produced to the council in time for them to deliberate on it. This year coming up, they're going to even have more time to deliberate on it as well. So I really appreciate the teamwork approach that we take toward putting our budget together. So we're now going to hear from Chairwoman Butler and Vice Chairwoman Lee with some thoughts on our budget. Ladies?
Thank you for coming out today and seeing the paving. When Councilwoman Lee and I took over budget, I'd been budget chair before, but this was the first time we really had some money. And it was great to work across the table with her and the others and make this a priority, not just for Metro Louisville, but for the future, because paving is going to help with your economic development. It helps with your neighborhoods, and it helps just bring people up and feel better. When you go down a street that needs to be paved, you think, the neighborhood isn't where it should be. So we're happy to help do that. And as the mayor's getting ready to build block by block, this is street by street and paving, and we're happy to support it, and we want to continue doing it so the entire community is finished and paved and ready for economic development and business. So, Councilwoman Lee.
I'd like to say thank you to all of you all for being here today. It is an exciting milestone that we're celebrating today, and the dedication of nearly $23 million for paving in fiscal year 2017 represents one of the largest and most focused amendments to fiscal year budget ever made by Metro Council. It was great collaborating with my colleagues, and we understand that people expect results. My fellow colleagues on the Republican caucus, especially Councilman Kramer, who couldn't be here today, and Councilman Downard, have for a long time been advocating, and we've been pooling resources to make sure we're addressing these road concerns. And we're glad that we're all working together to improve community-wide our roads, which are important for economic development, as President Yates already mentioned. We do have work to do, and we do have to follow this 10-year plan and remain committed to it, so that we are providing the best of service for all of our constituents and all of our citizens in Metro Louisville. I want to thank our Public Works team, who has been fabulous. They are very committed. A personal example is I know I was getting a street paved in District 7, and I was able to actually go out and walk the street with the engineer who was working on the project to discuss the specific issues of drainage or other issues on that specific road. And they're committed, and I wanted to acknowledge them and thank them for their dedication and hard work to helping to achieve this milestone today. And thanks to all of you all for continued commitment in improving our roads. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman. As I mentioned, too, I want to recognize Queenie Averett over here, who represents our city as our county judge. Thank you, Queenie, for being with us here today. Now, special thanks as well goes out to the Council's Public Works, Bridges, and Transportation Committee, which keeps an eye on those needs year-round. And we're fortunate to have Chairman Tom Owen with us here today, who is a short-timer on the Council, but the impact that he's made on our city over the decades is really almost without measure. So we're asking Councilman Owen to say a few words, please.
Only a person who's not seeking re-election would wear a funny hat before television cameras. 3 brief nuggets. One is an educational moment. You wonder how we got so far behind, and budget after budget are fighting to play catch up. A massive chunk of the city budget, metro budget, comes from people going to work. And there was a season of our nation and our community's life where not so many people went to work. And as a result, we got terribly, terribly behind. Now, 2 other brief nuggets. The funny hat is just a reminder that smooth roads are enjoyed by bicycle bus commuters. And a 4-second plug, Mr. Mayor and council colleagues, we do need, as we make them smooth, to make sure we also do enough street sweeping to get up the glass and the metal pieces and the shards that also can puncture your tire. And then third, a matter as far as the committee that I chair, drilling down one more level. Before the committee, we have heard in the last several months that yes, we're getting a bunch of smooth roads and we're continuing on that path. But in addition, Metro government is working more cooperatively with the agencies of government as well as private utilities and the fiber people and many others in restoring and maintaining the pavement once it has to be dug up. And secondly, metro government and these agencies are coordinating much, much better than ever before in trying to anticipate cuts in the pavement, as sad as that is. Sometimes the thing that causes you heartburn is it just gets paved and somebody digging in it, for crying out loud. They're doing a lot better. We're doing a lot better in trying to resolve those kinds of coordination issues. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councilman. So this is a good example here as we close of teamwork to make this happen. When you come down and think about multimodal transportation, you can see how the sidewalks are improved here, especially at this corner. You have ADA accessible sidewalks. That's what the little bumps are over here. See a nice paved road. See a dedicated bicycle lane. So this is what we want to see more of around our city. And of course, we're adding to our bicycle lanes as well. Fortunately, that's been something that seems to be embraced by most all of our citizens now. Is something that we know that we need, and our millennials in particular are emphasizing the need for that. And then we've got several cyclists up here as well that enjoy getting out on our roads. So with that, we're happy to take any questions if there are any. Thanks everybody for coming today.